Hi there, fam. Welcome back to You Plant, We Water. As you know, I am your girl, Dr. Toya Flowers, licensed professional counselor with a specialization in couples and family counseling, as well as a professor of clinical mental health counseling. And here in this corner of the world, we focus on combining your faith, mental health, and relationship satisfaction to help you have that healthy, thriving relationship that God has for you and that you deserve. And having said that, I would like to welcome my distinguished co host.
Hi, I'm Trisha Flowers. I am a minister and a lifestyle coach. And again, we are so happy that you guys have allowed us into your homes or wherever you're watching us at.
That part. So as you know, we have been engaging in our Faith Over Fear 90-day challenge. And this week would begin the week 2 since we've launched the challenge. Those of you who are interested, basically the Faith Over Fear challenge is just kind of like a lifestyle choice where we are going to be activating our faith and coming against and binding fear and worry and anxiety so that we can live our God-given purpose. You can find out more about the challenge on our Facebook page, You Plant, We Water. And please do watch our previous 2 episodes to get a really good sense of what we're doing. But this is the second week. And so for week 2, our focus is on journaling. So, want to encourage you to go ahead and write down your fears and worries. All right, go ahead, get it out on a sheet of paper. Then rewrite them from a faith perspective. So, for example, I'm worried about XYZ situation, but I trust that everything will work out for my good. All right. So, that's what you're going to do. This week is what we encourage you to do. Last week we were on affirmations. That went great for me. I even found myself pulling over to like a forest preserve and reading the word and praying and all of that. How did things go for you, sis?
I did a little bit. I need to do better. I'm going to do better with the journaling part of it.
Yeah. And the thing is, you don't have to do it every day, right? Like if you do it one time this week, or maybe you don't get to it. This is the thing, counselors are big with this. We say you do the best you can do each day, given what you had at that moment on that day, right? So maybe you don't end up journaling until week 4. It's okay. These are tools to help you. And ultimately, you're doing the challenge if when you feel that fear coming on, you activate your faith. That's the only real thing you have to do during the 90 days.
So I'm lying. I actually did. Um, I did. Or I just want to be honest for a moment. So although I wasn't saying it, what I did was I acknowledged what I was feeling on my Facebook page. So for me, my personal Facebook page is like a little caveat of whatever's going on in my world. So I did do it.
Love it. So please visit our Facebook page, You Plant We Water. We'd love to hear how things are going for you, what you're doing. You can join this challenge at any time. Whenever you see this, feel free to join. And we do have a community group dedicated to this Faith Over Fear 90-day challenge. So we look forward to seeing you there and how it's going, for each of us. All right. So this week, we are not going to spend an entire session talking about faith or fear because, like I said, this is something that should be happening in all of our lives in the background, right? But and I have to credit Trisha with this idea because it's a great one. We are going to be talking about the realities of being in relationships versus kind of like the idea, that fairy tale fantasy that you think being in relationships are going to be. And as you know, we love to talk about things from multiple perspectives, which include the petty, the professional, and the prophetic. So I'm sure you'll get a little bit of all of that today. Right. So, relationships, right? I'm just at reality versus the fantasy. And I'm just going to jump in and you can take us where you want to go with it. But I know one thing I heard early on in my young years when I was preparing to get married is people kept saying, don't spend more time focusing on the wedding than the marriage. Because as little girls, we grow up watching the Disney Channel and the princess and she's saved and all these things, and he swoops up. And so people put a lot of time, money, and effort into this elaborate wedding, right? But not really thinking about what is the relationship going to be like. So I love that you suggested this topic.
So with that being said, I too, I'm her sister, as you guys know. We do fixate on a lot of things that are, magical and whimsical. And as women, typically, we see a lot of Disney movies, not just Disney, but all of the movies that are the princess, and it's going to wake up and then you're going to find this person and it's going to be easy. And then you guys are going to just go off and you're going to have one problem and then everything is going to be, be awesome. Right. But I found in my life personally, that was not the case. So I have had to do a couple of restructuring. Good evening. And so those things have helped me to be comfortable realizing that relationships are different, right? It's not, and I'm being very careful and mindful of the words that I use because some people say it's a challenge. It can be, but they're different. It's going to be different for each person. So what I've learned in my personal life is it's never what I thought, right? So I had a goal for myself and I was going to be married and I was going to have 2.3 kids. And the 0.3 was going to possibly either be a dog or a cat or something. It was going to be something like that, maybe adoption. And that was not the course of my life. So what ended up happening for me personally was the things that I thought, how I projected my life to plan out. It wasn't that. And I'm so happy that it wasn't, because I have to be honest, I have a really good life. Like even it is. Let me start. You guys know a little bit of my story. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it's good. Like I'm very comfortable in being who I am right now today. And if you had told me that 5 years ago, I'd be like, no, it's not going to work out. Things are going to be just, I got to do it. I got to fix it. And what I will tell you is, in your attempt to fix things, sometimes we create more issues for ourselves. So just relax. That's my input for that little segment.
Yeah, so true, right? Absolutely. And it reminds me what you were saying reminds me that his ways are not our ways, right? And so what we imagine is going to be amazing for our life, God sees a bigger picture, and so his plan is ultimately the best plan. So love that. Let's just talk about some of the pieces that we've heard that we think about are the fantasy of a relationship versus the reality of a relationship. I love what you were talking about. Let's see. Pastor Lloyd Kohler says we can plan, but God directs. Yes, yes, and
yes. And redirects.
That part.
He does it all. Like you could have this perfect plan, even for a wedding, a real wedding, you could have it planned to the T, right? But the day of the actual wedding, things start happening that you never thought were going to happen. And you still have to be in that moment and remember what the reason was behind it. So
absolutely. There's always something that goes wrong with weddings. Okay. So I know I would say almost like myth versus fact kind of thing about relationships. But to the point you were saying about how what we both have said, like stories and all of that. There's like you're looking for your Prince Charming or Princess Charming or whatever, and then everything's going to be just perfect. So one myth is that there will be no disagreements. Right? Like if I find my perfect person, yeah, thanks, Lawanda, for sure. It's like if I find my perfect person, because that's my perfect match, we're gonna just get along. Like we're never gonna have any disagreement. There's never gonna be any strife.
And that's not true. There's going to be strife because and this is something that our mom taught us. You have two people who were raised totally separate, right? And typically we like the opposite of ourselves. So that's going to already create some type of uh, static, right? So if I'm a person that's faith-based and I end up marrying somebody that maybe isn't as strong in their faith, goes back to equally yoked, right? There are going to be issues because of that. But what would we end up doing is like, okay, well, we're going to get married. All of that's going to go to the past and we're going to just live and we're going to be just happy. That's not true. So those things are still going to be at the forefront. You can make it through that, but it's going to take some work, which is why we have counselors.
That part. And just, following up on what you said, Mom also used to tell us that if you have two people and they always agree on everything, one of them isn't necessary. Right. So that's just a way to reframe your thoughts and not see it as a bad thing. But having said that, honestly, the more you care for someone, the more passionate you are about that relationship. That kind of increases the likelihood that there will be something that you disagree about. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to fight or have really knock them out, drag them out kinds of conflict. But when we truly care, we're invested. And when you're invested, that's when you tend to have some forms of disagreements, right? Yes, Lawanda is on fire. There will be plenty. It takes consistent effort and the desire to actually care and do better. And that's the piece. You're definitely going to have conflict, but if that passion to do better and you care, you got this. All right, you got a myth or fact, or what are we saying? Reality versus fantasy?
The reality is everybody's not going to like your mate, right? Mm-hmm. So if you like your mate and it's good for you, one of the things, I don't remember if it was you who told me this or not, but you don't have to tell everything. So every time you guys are in an argument, yes, or, a disagreement, you don't always have to tell, especially if you have a person like me who won't forget what you said. You have to make sure that you're not just venting at the moment and it's not something that's, like, for instance, I'll use a real life example for myself. I'm upset because this person's not understanding that I don't really want to go to the store. I don't like the store. I'd rather shop online. And I'm telling my sister this, and I'm making the person seem like an evil witch at the time because that's how I'm feeling at the time, right? So I'm like, oh my God, this person is really just doing too much and they just are trying to force me. And that's really not it. It's just at that moment, that's what I feel. But the person may not, your family may not be able to refrain. And that now they think this person's a witch. And you don't even think that. You were just frustrated in the moment.
Yes. And that is something in counseling we do share as a tip, that it is better to keep your relationship issues within your relationship. You want to limit the people you go to for those reasons. And also because, you might get skewed advice anyway, because those people are for you in some ways. And to your point about not everyone's going to like your spouse, this is beyond family and friends. And whether you're sharing, details of what happens in your relationship, this could just be, they just might not like the person, right? Like just from day one, they may not like your person. And there's two camps, I would say, of thinking on that piece as far as the reality. Some would say the people closest to you, if they really feel strongly about your partner, that they just don't like that person for some reason, they are not clouded by love, right? They don't have love goggles on it. So they may be seeing something that you're not seeing. So that's one camp. And on the other hand, you ultimately know the person better than anyone else, your family and things like that. So you are seeing a side of them that they probably don't get to see. And so I feel like I haven't told you all one way to go or not, but it's just that point that ultimately the decision is yours, and you have to follow your own heart because people may or may not.
And it's okay. That's the thing. It's okay. You may not always like the person that you're with, and that's okay too. So it's just you have to remember for yourself. And this is the thing that I would say is when you're saying your gripes, also make sure you're saying the positives about the person too. Do not be one-sided and always, and we have a tendency of doing that, always going to your family and telling them the negative things, but not telling them the good because it does make it hard for them. They're like, well, this person obviously isn't any good because you forgot to share the good stuff.
Yes. So it was something you said that was another myth, and I just forgot you because you just mentioned it. And I was like, there's one. I forget what it was. Love is not blind. So I don't know. They say this, Pastor Kohler. I don't know.
May or may not be.
Right.
You know.
Who knows? No, truly it isn't blind, right? What it usually happens is that we want to ignore things. But what was it? It was something you said. All right, we're gonna move on because I can't, but I was like,
It'll come
yes,
to you.
that's a big one. Anyway, I can't remember. But we've already talked about you're not going to agree all the time. We've talked about maybe, those around you may or may not feel as strongly about your person as you do. Another, I think, oh, that's what you said. You may not always like your person. You will love them, but I think one myth is that, it's always going to be, you'll always be like, oh, they're so wonderful. Da, da, da. But the longer you're in a relationship, there are things that seem so small that can really work your nerves, right? Like, I don't like the way they eat their soup. Like, I'm just looking at them like, ooh. This is just a made up example. But that is because you are sharing your life with someone. And so it's not always going to be that every little thing about them is just like, oh, I just think it's amazing. And they're just the perfect person. The perfect person for you is still going to have flaws of their own, right? And do they match? What's that? The 80-20 rule? Am I getting 80% of the things that I really wanted, that so much so that I can overlook the 20% that might bother me?
And I love that. And so in my younger years, I was like a terror, right? So your nose, you was chewing, the way their eyes look. There's just all kinds of different things. God has worked with me, guys. But it would be all kinds of little things that I was knocking people out the door for. And I never got to the core of who they were because I was being very picky. I mean, just anything. The height, that is a real thing for me. I've learned that was a silly request of mine. And I want to say this for all of my short kings out there. They can be amazing. But I did have a height thing because I wanted to be the little lady. And I'm tall. I'm 5'9". So it was really hard to be the little lady if, you have to be at least 6 feet. I mean, for me to be a little lady. So with that being said, that was something that was unreal. I had an unreal expectation about people and things. And so in my relationships, I had to be, my sister would usually talk me off the ledge of crazy, which I tend to like sometimes. And she would say, what did the person do? And it would be something really like just peculiar for me. Like, you know what? That person, when they were laughing, I don't think I'm gonna be able to look at them like that anymore. And so you have to be honest with yourself and work on that too. So sometimes you can have the unreal expectations.
Yeah. And that is a big one, just about the expectations. You might be missing out on your person because you have unrealistic expectations. And they can be anything. I know since we call it out, right? I know there's a thing with the ladies, 3-6, right? 6-pack, 6 figures, 6 feet. I don't know. Especially, what are we bringing to the table, that kind of thing.
Especially if you didn't have a 6-pack, right? So
say in a nice way.
You know me, I'm gonna keep it 100, right? So if you didn't have a 6-pack, then you probably that shouldn't be on your list of things, right? Or if you don't have 6 figures,
right? Maybe they,
maybe
a 6. inches of real hair. I don't know,
You
but
know what?
whatever it
No,
is.
one of the things that men say all the time, okay, is I want a natural woman.
Yes.
You're not natural, sir. You have that spray in your hair. That's not natural. I'm a barber. So, right? So you're getting enhancement. So let's be real. Both of us all have to be honest with ourselves and get to the point where we're being honest. I'm very honest, right? So that's the thing. So you have to be realistic and realize that you're in your 666, you may be missing the blessing because you're not there. You guys could get there because maybe you're gonna work out at the gym together. So go ahead.
I love this. Thank you, Latrice. She said, at least my mama, no Napoleon complex. That sounds realistic. But and even for us, right? Even in saying you want to have realistic expectations, you know what your non-negotiables are, and you should stand on that, no matter what other people think, right? Maybe you have, I don't know, I can't think of it, but you're like, I don't know, whatever it is, they can't be a vegetarian, right? I don't know. That might be important to you because something has happened in your life where you're like, I can't do the vegetarians. Okay, but what we're saying is still have an open mind because what if you meet someone who's all those things, but they happen to be a vegetarian, right? So that's again just little pieces about facts versus myths of what it's going to be like when we're in relationship. And I think I know we're closing out on time, but one other one I'd love to mention is that people think that relationships aren't hard work. And they are. In some ways, your relationship might be the hardest work you will ever do, because even when all the pieces come together, you're attracted to each other, you have good chemistry, you have shared values, you got 80% of what you were looking for, all those things, you still have to work at it. It is literally like the name of our show, that it needs watering. If you don't water it, if you don't put in the time, the effort, the energy, it will dry up and die, no matter how great it starts, right? So relationships are hard work. And on my bio, when people are looking for counseling, I always, to give them a sense of what they could expect from me, I always put on there relationships can be the source of great joy and great pain because it's true.
And it's real, right? Anything worth fighting for is going to take the work. That's in every aspect of your life, right? If it just comes super easy, we don't always value it. And so when we're not valuing things as a minister, that can be removed. So it's going to take the things you're going to have to water it. You're going to have to take and use the tools, which is why we're here talking to you guys, right? At the end of the day, all of the laughter, all of the funny, we're trying to give you tools so that you can maintain and giving you real life examples of the foolishness that we've experienced. That's why we experienced it, so you didn't have to.
Hopefully. And having said that, we know that our audience, that you all have experienced and you have so much to add. So please do visit our Facebook page and share some of your thoughts on things that you discovered were fantasy versus reality, because we'd love to hear it. And I'm sure that everyone can benefit from that knowledge. So again, as we were saying, relationships, oops, sorry, I'm touching the mic. But relationships take work, right? Anything worth having, you're going to fight for. You're going to put in that, and that's why we're just trying to provide as many tools, tips, and resources as we can to help you stay connected in that relationship. Because I strongly have believe, nobody told me this. This is just something I believe. I've been seeing it at least over the last 10 years, that the enemy is out to destroy, especially marriages. Because if you can disrupt that, you can break up the whole family unit, and you could do some things generationally. So anything we can do to help build marriages, help sustain them, and edify the kingdom, we want to do. It was funny, I was listening to the radio on the way here, and the guy was saying, the truth is we've all made a rash decision in a relationship, right? Like that perfect person who seemed like the perfect person, and they did something and we're like, I'm done, I'll break it off with them. And then, however long it takes you, a couple weeks, couple months, and you're in your house like, oh, I made a big mistake. So hopefully we can help you avoid that.
That is the goal, right? We want you to be thriving in your relationships. And I believe the same thing. I do strongly believe that That is the best way to go after people, is their relationships, your marriage. All of those relationships have your family, all of those are connected. And so if I can get it at the source, I can make sure that you never go any further, because we know that two is better than one, right? So when we're all on one accord, we can manifest quicker. We can do all kinds of things. We can build, we can do ministry to better, all of those things. But when you're out there doing it alone, you're oh God, prophetic, right? You're under attack, and you will get it. You will get what you're going to get it, because you don't have that covering.
Woo. Yes, right. And to your point, as we wrap up about two is better than one, the Bible says where just two or three are gathered, he is in the midst. So that means in every couple relationship and every marriage, God can be right there, right? Right there in the midst. And it's amazing. But that's something we as believers, faith without works is dead. And so we need to do what we can in our knowledge to protect and preserve our relationships, and then turn the rest over to the Most High God. So we thank you for joining us. A lot of times our topics we could talk about for hours.
So we have a little bit more time. We got 5 minutes. So we got to make it count. And what is it, the one thing or whatever that you feel like we want to end on this to give to the people? So what is it that you would say? What is it that you would say is the one myth out of the ones that we discussed that may be something that we can work on the easiest?
Yes, unfortunately, I don't have an answer, but I can say this, and I think I've shared this before, but it's something I share with my couples all the time. There's a counseling theorist by the name of Dr. John Gottman, and he's really well known because he studied couples and put them in these like simulated houses and watched them for 10,000 hours to see what works. And because he's like an expert on couples, he was asked one time, if you only had 30 seconds to work with a couple, what could you tell them in just 30 seconds that would help their relationship survive? And he said, and I would agree, the most important thing you can do as a couple is to invest and honor each other's dreams. That's a 30-second snippet you could take with you. That is a fact. It's not a myth.
And I would say, make sure that you're also praying right together on, so it all goes together, right? And I love that. And I did throw her on the spot.
I was just going to start talking about announcements and little things like that. Yeah. So it was, but I love it. I just couldn't think of nothing.
She did think of something, and that's why you want her as your counselor.
Oh, that's such a nice plug. You know, I was a little bit of an airhead there. We keep it real over here. So again, we thank you for tuning in. Remember, we are full-fledged into our Faith Over Fear 90-day challenge. As you engage in this process and as you see God move in your life, please let us know what's happening so we can celebrate that, so we can support each other, because iron sharpens iron. And those praise reports, those testimonies, I'm just so excited and looking forward to. Again, to get involved, you can visit our Facebook page, You Plant, We Water. We encourage you to join the community group specific to this challenge, but there's always good content and things like that there. And I'm trying to think other announcements. We want to be sure to, as always, thank those who have helped make this show possible. So why don't we take a second? I don't think we've done this. I want to thank WVTC for having us on the show. They are a wonderful network, a studio, and just a great family support. And so we thank them very much for this time and this platform. And we'd also like to thank producer Bishop Lloyd Kohler, pastor of Mission Covenant Church in Blue Island. Charlie says, communicate with each other more and honestly. That is a great final takeaway, right? That part. Thank you. So as always, you all, we are here and we'd like to say we're keep thinking we're about to end. We keep finding out we got 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 more minute.
And we're trying to make sure we give you guys all that we have in a limited amount of time, because I do want to say this. We pray before we come on. And so these words, even in our laughter and things, are coming from the Most High God. So we are making sure that we are being obedient. So we're trying to make sure that we're getting it all in. So with that being said, we would like to go to.
I think that took a minute. So we love you all. And as always, you plant, we water.